Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Najam, and I'll be presenting today's topic of biochemical recurrence as we've been following the theme of prostate cancer. So, this is a continuation of that. So, first of all, we will discuss the biochemical recurrence that occurs after radical prostatectomy. As we all know that radical prostatectomy is one of the most common treatment modality for localized prostate cancer, and it is estimated about 25 to 41% of men will develop PSA recurrence. Biochemical recurrence is also known as PSA recurrence. So that recurrence occurs 10 years after surgery. Not all men with a detectable PSA level after surgery will be destined to clinical progression, which is defined as development of metastatic disease, need for second line treatment like radiotherapy or androgen deprivation therapy, or death from prostate cancer. A significant proportion of men will have detectable PSA levels that plateaus but does not rise. And there are different hypotheses, and some of them suggest that residual benign disease is left in the prostatic bed. PSA production at very low levels by cells of non-prostatic origin, or PSA elevation is due to a residual low-grade prostate cancer that is destined for an indolent course.
Najam, एक minute. So PSA production at a very low level by non-prostatic origin. So tell me what are the non-prostatic origin of PSA?
Basically, if they are prostatic is basically, but maybe some metastatic lesions that are present that are not within prostate, they may produce PSA.
Like
Metastatic lesions, small lesions, which are not detectable clinically. Otherwise, PSA is prostate gland specific.
actually, I have gone through the literature. It is written that PSA may be secreted from apocrine sweat glands, salivary glands, periurethral glands, and anal glands. Even also, it is secreted in female breast milk and cervical mucus also.
So, coming to the definition, in the literature there are more than 50 definitions of BCR, but the need for a standard definition of PSA recurrence was felt that accurately predicted for clinical progression. So, in 2007, the AUA released the guidelines for PSA recurrence, defining it as a value of 0.2 nanogram per ml or greater with a secondary confirmatory laboratory value. The goal behind a unifying definition was to determine an early marker for treatment failure in advance of clinical progression, to use a low enough value for patients to be candidates for early salvage therapy, and for standard definition to be used as a comparison within different patient series.
Can you go back to the definition? So this is the definition for radical prostatectomy,
After radical prostatectomy.
radiation therapy.
Radical prostatectomy.
There are two different definitions. For radiation therapy, the definition differs
Yes.
because you cannot achieve PSA at zero level
Yes.
after radiation therapy.
I'll be coming to the radius. The natural history. PSA recurrence normally precedes clinically meaningful events in an extremely protected and variable manner. Pound and Associates in 1999 determined that the median actual time from biochemical recurrence to metastasis was 8 years, while to that it was 5 years. Their initial analysis determined that the risk for metastasis depends on time to biochemical recurrence, Gleason score, and PSA doubling time. The data demonstrates that the PSA doubling time, Gleason score, and time from surgery to BCR are predictive of predictive of prostate cancer specific mortality. Majority of men who experience biochemical recurrence will not succumb to the disease. However, evaluation of risk factors for aggressive progression are important for patient counseling, clinical trials, and implementation of salvage therapies. Evaluation of PSA after radical prostatectomy should occur indefinitely, as 27% will experience recurrence after 5 years. So, prediction of biochemical recurrence. Regardless of the definitions chosen, almost all recurrences are preceded by a detectable and rising PSA levels. Predicting patients who will have recurrence is important in terms of counseling, identifying those likely in need of secondary therapy, and for potential new adjuvant treatment. Several groups have evaluated factors that contribute to the risk for BCR. Role and associate determined that the most important factors as being pre-treatment PSA level, clinical stage, Gleason sum, pathological state, and the era in which the radical prostatectomy was performed. A good surgical outcome after radical prostatectomy has always been the eradication of the disease while maintaining continence and potency. So, achieving the goal of cancer control always has been important to achieve negative surgical margins, as this is the predictor of biochemical recurrence. Nowadays, several prognostic tools are in use for identifying high-risk patients for biochemical recurrence. And one of the most important predictive tool was created by Stephenson and colleagues in 2006 that takes into consideration clinical stage, PSA value, Gleason score, and systemic biopsy results. So this picture demonstrates one of the nomograms that are in use for identifying patients at high risk for biochemical recurrence. Ultrasensitive PSA. These tests are assays that measure post-operative PSA to levels less than 0.2 nanogram per ml. In 1990s, ultrasensitive PSA was introduced that has brought about increased sensitivity, but at the same time also controversy. A multivariate analysis reveals that undetectable ultra-sensitive PSA, along with the preoperative PSA level, pathological state, and pathological Gleason score, are significant predictors of biochemical failure. However, the enthusiasm for ultra-sensitive PSA have been lessened by questions of clinical utility. Not all patients who develop undetectable ultrasensitive PSA are destined for traditional biochemical recurrence. Using 0.05 nanogram per ml as cutoff, Eisenberg and colleagues in 2010 found that approximately 2/3 of their study cohort who attained this level did not progress to biochemical failure in 5 years. PSA doubling time is established as an important prognostic indicator of clinical failure after radical prostatectomy. However, what has not been established is whether the PSA doubling time using ultra-sensitive PSA is relevant to this end. Therefore, the usefulness of using ultra-sensitive PSA on deciding secondary therapy is limited. Coming to the imaging, traditionally imaging techniques have been limited in the diagnosis of recurrence when PSA levels have been low. For instance, the routine use of bone scans in patients with PSA less than 10 nanogram per ml is of limited value, as only 4% will demonstrate a positive scan. Similarly, the traditional CT scans are also unlikely to be positive in patients with PSA levels less than 10. Conversely, TRUST has demonstrated reasonable sensitivity at low PSA levels, especially with masses at vesico-urethral anastomosis. ProstaScint scan, indium 111 capromab pentatide scanning, or ProstaScint, incorporates an IgG monoclonal antibody that binds to prostate-specific membrane antigen, PSMA. Its use in patients with biochemical recurrence, however, has been limited because of lower sensitivity and specificity. More commonly used is the PET-CT, which has gained popularity in recurrent prostate cancer population, although the use of FDG as a radiotracer has been limited by its low sensitivity. Radiotracers like acetate, choline, fluorocholine have demonstrated promise, and the US FDA has approved choline PET for detection of prostate cancer recurrence. C11 acetate PET scans are another modality gaining favor in evaluation of recurrent PSA after radical prostatectomy with the sensitivity as high as 75% with a median PSA level of 2 nanogram per ml. The clinical utility of PET CT is however still questionable as salvage therapies are most effective at lower PSA levels. Hence, awaiting the conversion of PET scans to positive may delay potential curative therapy. The use of multiparametric MRI can be used in the detection of local recurrence after biochemical failure. In this aspect, Sella and colleagues in 2004 analyzed endorectal MRI in 48 patients with biochemical recurrence after radical prostatectomy and found sensitivity and specificity of 95 and 100% respectively. The addition of dynamic contrast enhancement has demonstrated an increase in accuracy over standard MRI with sensitivity of 88% and specificity of 100% despite low PSA values. Hence, compared to PET CT, multiparametric MRI performs better in identification of local recurrence, especially at low levels of biochemical recurrence. So, coming to salvage radiation therapy, the state of persistent or rising PSA levels after radical prostatectomy is challenging for patients and clinicians alike. Despite surgical management, up to 40% of men harbor detectable PSA levels. Current limitations in imaging modalities to identify local versus metastatic disease, especially at low PSA levels, create a treatment dilemma for clinicians.
Prostatectomy or radiotherapy, and there is a suspicion of residual mass to shrinkage the size of this mass. While salvage is given when there is a recurrence occur, when the disease occurs, then treatment is given. This is the salvage therapy.
Means adjuvant therapy is given with planned primary therapy. Okay?
With primary therapy.
And the salvage is given after recurrence.
When there is a recurrence occur, when the PSA is rising, and then we will give salvage therapy. Salvage may be radiotherapy, salvage may be surgical.
Despite androgen deprivation therapy being a non-curative treatment for rising PSA values after radical prostatectomy, around 60% of patients will undergo ADT as second-line treatment. Salvage radiotherapy remains the clearest choice and best chance for long-term freedom from progression. Although several groups have demonstrated the value of salvage radiotherapy in improving biochemical endpoints, Rox and colleagues in 2008 showed that salvage radiotherapy compared to observation also improve prostate cancer-specific survival. Failure after salvage radiotherapy can be due to persistent local disease, recurrence of local disease, persistence of metastasis, or development of metastatic disease. It is important to identify factors that may predict for failure after salvage radiotherapy for patient counseling and surveillance. Several groups have performed analysis on their patient cohorts undergoing salvage radiotherapy and have identified risk factors for success and failure. Like Buskirk and Associates in 2006 identified pathological stage 3A or less versus T3B, pathological Gleason score, and pre-salvage radiation PSA levels were all predictive of biochemical recurrence. Furthermore, time to biochemical failure has been found to predict for development of distant metastatic disease, prostate cancer specific mortality, and overall mortality. The dose response with salvage radiotherapy. The primary treatment of prostate cancer with radiotherapy has taught us that higher dosages of treatment led to improved prostate cancer outcomes with limited side effects. Many groups have developed protocols of salvage therapy, enhancing both the dosages administered and the plan targeting using intensity modulated radiotherapy versus conformal therapy. American Society for Therapeutic Radiology and Oncology consensus panel released a recommendation that stated that dosages of at least 64 gyrates should be administered to the prostatic bed. These have been reaffirmed in the recent EAU guidelines. Despite these findings, clinicians must temper some of the enthusiasm based on the potential of increased treatment-related morbidity. Concurrent ADT with SRT, salvage radiotherapy. Theoretically, the use of ADT may sterilize micrometastatic disease, shrink tumor burden, making it more amenable to local salvage therapy, and potentially work in synergy with radiotherapy to treat remaining cancer cells. However, concurrent administration of ADT with salvage radical prostatectomy is controversial, with mixed results in multiple series. In a cohort of 635 men with biochemical or local recurrence, the addition of hormonal therapy to radiotherapy did not result in improved prostate cancer specific survival. And there are several trials that are underway looking at the efficacy of ADT, like RTOG trial and Radicals trial. Final results of these trials are awaited, which will determine the necessity and optimal duration of ADT. Another question is whether whole pelvis versus prostatic bed radiotherapy is required. Very few series evaluate the role of whole pelvis versus prostatic bed only salvage radiotherapy after biochemical recurrence. Just like radiation dose and concomitant ADT, there are no mature randomized controlled trials that clearly demonstrate the added benefit of whole pelvis radiation. Coming to the adjuvant radiation therapy, National Cancer Institute defines adjuvant therapy as additional cancer treatment given after primary treatment to lower the risk that the cancer will come back. Adjuvant therapy may include chemotherapy, radiotherapy, hormonal therapy, targeted therapy, or biologic therapy. After radiotherapy, patients with high risk for local recurrence are offered radiation therapy to prolong the disease-free interval. Typically, this is administered 4 to 6 months after radiotherapy when the PS is still undetectable and patients have regained urinary incontinence. The most recent AUA guidelines read physicians should offer adjuvant radiotherapy to patients with adverse pathological findings at prostatectomy, including seminal vesicle invasion, positive surgical margins, or extra prostatic extension because of demonstrated reduction in BCR, local recurrence, and clinical progression. Despite the well-performed RCTs and recent AUA guidelines, there exists some skepticism in regard to the optimal timing and necessity of adjuvant radiotherapy. Opponents of pure adjuvant therapy argue that there is a risk of over-treating patients who are never destined to fail local treatment. In fact, a significant proportion of men with extracapsular extension, positive surgical margins, and or seminal vesicle invasion at radical prostatectomy will not experience biochemical relapse. Furthermore, there are significant local toxicities inherent to radiotherapy, and patients should be counseled that treatment is not without consequences. After radical prostatectomy, all men with extracapsular extension involve seminal vesicles and or positive margins should be counseled about the potential benefits of adjuvant radiotherapy.
Do you know any scoring system or any predictors of progression after radical prostatectomy? Because the world is moving forward. They predict before the disease happens. So there are certain any predicted models that this patient will go into PCR, BCR,
Yes.
or do you know any of?
As I mentioned before, there are certain predictive tools that are in use now. I just showed the one before used by Stephenson and colleagues. You can also call them nomograms.
Do you know any what is Capra scoring system and any?
These are also some of the system. I did not mention them, but they are included. These are the systems.
Because it is important that once the patient you plan for a RP or anything, so you predict that what percentage of patient will go after this procedure into a biochemical progression.
Yes.
So you should know these systems as well.
Yes. So the question of salvage versus adjuvant radiotherapy. Mature RCTs are lacking to evaluate salvage versus adjuvant radiotherapy. Several studies have compared the two, but there are inherent biases because patient cohorts that undergo salvage therapy already have demonstrated failure after radical prostatectomy, whereas the adjuvant cohorts include up to 50% of patients who will not experience clinical progression. In a cohort of 192 men matched 1:1 by preoperative PSA levels, Gleason score, seminal vesicle invasion, and surgical margin, 5-year freedom from biochemical failure was 75% for adjuvant radiation, while 66% for salvage therapy. And as mentioned before, several trials are ongoing, like Radicals, RAVES, that looking into the role of adjuvant versus salvage radiotherapy. And as these trials mature, we will gain a better understanding about the timing of radiotherapy along with the utility of concomitant ADT therapy. So, androgen deprivation therapy for BCR. ADT in the post-prostatectomy setting has been under-evaluated, and the scope of its utility is lacking. Unfortunately, the RCTs are limited, and the exact role in the comprehensive care of aggressive prostate cancer is not completely understood. There are large retrospective series that have demonstrated mixed results. Early ADT in men who have experienced biochemical recurrence has been found to decrease the rates of clinical metastasis in patients with high risk features, defined as Gleason sum more than 7 or PSA doubling time less than 12 months. Not all patients who experience biochemical recurrence require ADT, and the identification of subgroups at highest risk for systemic failure will optimize selection and prevent morbidities. So clearly, patients at the highest risk for local and systemic recurrence are those who likely benefit the most from adjuvant hormone therapy. So prostate-specific antigen recurrence after definitive radiotherapy. So now we come to, before we were discussing the biochemical recurrence after radical prostatectomy, now we are discussing about PSA recurrence after definitive radiotherapy. Similar to PSA recurrence after radical prostatectomy, BCR after definitive radiotherapy precedes clinical failure. This gives ample warning of potential disease progression to initiate secondary salvage treatments. However, the definition for BCR and threshold values have been controversial. The standard definition of PSA failure as developed by ASTRO was determined to be 3 consecutive rises in PSA level after another PSA, with the date of failure as midpoint between the nadir PSA and the first failure. However, the panel made it a point to state that the PSA failure is not equivalent to clinical failure. The standard definition of PSA failure as developed by ASTRO was determined to be 3 consecutive rises in PSA level after a nadir PSA, with the date of failure as midpoint between the nadir PSA and first failure. However, the panel made it a point to state that PSA failure is not equivalent to clinical failure. Because of controversy associated with ASTRO definition, another multidisciplinary panel of experts from Arizona discussed a new definition. This group defined PSA recurrence as a rise of 2 nanogram per ml or more above the nadir PSA, and the date of failure was at call. Importantly, the biochemical outcomes should be 2 years short of median follow-up for the group to avoid any overestimations of biochemical free survival. Post-radiation PSA bounce is a varied definition of an elevated PSA of 0.1 to 0.5 nanogram per ml over the pre-bounce PSA level, with a subsequent decrease in PSA level. It is thought that this phenomenon occurs secondary to post-treatment prostatitis or even from delivery of a sublethal dose of radiation associated delayed cellular death. The authors emphasize that the clinicians should not use the indication of a PSA bounce as an indication of relapse. Patients who undergo transient rise in their PSA should be closely monitored, because not all men are destined for biochemical failure, let alone clinical failure. The natural history of PSA recurrence after definitive radiation. PSA only recurrence after definitive radiotherapy for prostate cancer leads to clinically relevant outcomes such as local and distant failure, along with cancer-specific death. Lee and colleagues in 1997 demonstrated in their cohort of 155 men that men with higher pre-treatment PSA levels, higher Gleason scores, and higher stages were more likely to develop an increasing PSA profile. Men with PSA elevation after definitive radiotherapy are candidates for salvage therapy. Defining those at greatest risk for local versus distant failures is the key to deciding on second-line therapy. Furthermore, patient comorbidity and age must be considered before the initiation of treatment. Biopsy after radiotherapy. The goals of biopsy or definitive radiation are to identify the presence or absence of locally residual or recurrent disease and to identify the grade of remaining disease. Crook and colleagues in 2000 recommended biopsies to be performed at least 2 to 3 years after the completion of radiotherapy to decrease the rates of false negatives and false positive biopsies. Biopsy based on ultrasound or MR guidance to target abnormal lesions, the seminal vesicles, and systematic sampling of the entire prostate gland. The information from prostate biopsy will guide further treatment strategies and should be reserved in whom salvage therapy is considered. Imaging after biochemical recurrence following radiotherapy. The imaging of prostate after radiotherapy remains challenging with traditional modalities because of fibrosis and shrinkage of prostate. TRUS has limited ability to identify suspicious lesions of prostate and has sensitivity and specificity profile no better than that of a rectal examination. Furthermore, although CT is useful in patients with significantly elevated PSA levels for detection of bone and lymph node metastasis, the ability to identify recurrent cancer after radiotherapy is limited. And recently, MRI has emerged as the most promising technique for identifying recurrent tumors of the prostate and biochemical recurrence. T2 weighted MRI of the prostate is capable of excellent soft tissue differentiation. However, its use in post-irradiated tissue is limited by diffusely decreased signal intensity in the prostate. Dynamic contrast enhancement gives the ability to identify vascularization of the prostate and tumor along with angiogenesis and capillary permeability characteristics. So, salvage radical prostatectomy after definitive radiation. So, salvage radical prostatectomy is considered as the most definitive way to eradicate localized radio-recurrent prostate cancer. Despite the infrequent use of salvage surgery in the setting of radio recurrence, multiple studies have demonstrated the 10-year cancer-specific survival to be as high as 70 to 83%. Despite successful cancer outcomes in traditional and contemporary series of salvage radical prostatectomy, the resistance to perform such operations is due to the inherent risk for significant morbidity. Historically, up to 50% of the patients who undergo salvage surgery will experience major complications. However, with improved surgical techniques and patient selection, the morbidity in modern series of salvage radical prostatectomy has improved dramatically. In fact, major complication rates were reduced from 33 to 13% and rectal injuries from 4% to 2%. Given the improvements in morbidity outcomes, patients who are at risk for radiation failure should be identified early and encouraged to undergo definitive therapy. However, due to the risk of devastating complications like fistula, patient selection is of utmost importance. Therefore, patients selected for salvage radical prostatectomy should have biopsy-proved radio-recurrent prostate cancer, at least 10 years of life expectancy, lack of identifiable metastasis on imaging, and a PSA level of less than 10 nanograms per ml. Salvage cryotherapy. In the United States, approximately 1/3 of men newly diagnosed with prostate cancer are treated with external beam radiation or brachytherapy as primary modality of therapy. Depending on the series and definition, approximately 30 to 40% of patients treated with primary radiation will have failure. In the carefully selected patient, cryotherapy may be an effective and safe option for treatment of radio-recurrent disease. Patients best suited for cryotherapy are those with localized treatment failure after radiotherapy with biopsy-proved disease because approximately 1/3 of the patients with biochemical failure will have a positive biopsy result. Regardless of definition, biochemical failure determination and histological failure are ideally identified at least 2 years after primary treatment to account for PSA bounce and ongoing histological changes after radiation. Candidates for salvage cryotherapy should have a reasonable life expectancy and must undergo a full metastatic workup with cross-sectional imaging, CT abdomen, pelvis or MRI, along with a radionuclide bone scan. Today, there is no universal definition of success using salvage cryotherapy. The success of salvage therapy is tempered by the significant risk for side effects. Third generation cryotherapy involved the adoption of a liquid argon gas system, smaller diameter probes, pinpoint thermocouple, and continued use of truss guidance and urethral warmers. With carefully selected patients, salvage cryotherapy is a reasonable approach with adequate cancer-specific outcomes and limited morbidity. Salvage brachytherapy. The evidence for salvage brachytherapy after radiation failure is lacking compared to salvage prostatectomy and salvage cryotherapy. However, several groups have published contemporary series including modern techniques that not only demonstrate improved cancer control outcomes but also have comparable morbidity outcomes to those with cryotherapy and surgery. The evidence for salvage brachytherapy demonstrate a potential role after radiation failure. However, just as with other treatment modalities, there is a significant risk for morbidity. Therefore, a thorough risk assessment of patients after comorbidities must be evaluated because some patients will succumb to other comorbidities. High dose rate brachytherapy has gained attention because it has the ability to implant the seminal vesicles and treat extracapsular extension while limiting the dosage to surrounding organs through a conformal delivery. Salvage HDRB is a promising modality for patients with radio-recurrent prostate cancer. As with low dose rate brachytherapy, patients likely to be most suitable are those with prolonged disease-free interval from primary treatment to recurrence, longer PSA doubling times, Gleason score of 6 or less, PSA level less than 10 nanogram per ml, and no evidence of extracapsular extension or seminal vesicle invasion. So, if I may summarize this according to the EU guidelines, biochemical recurrence after radical prostatectomy offer PSA monitoring to patients with biochemical recurrence with low risk features at relapse who may not benefit from intervention. Offer salvage radiotherapy to patients with a PSA rise from the undetectable range. Once the decision for SRT has been made, at least 66 guidance should be given as soon as possible. Offer hormonal therapy in addition to SRT to men with biochemical recurrence. Biochemical recurrence after radiotherapy. Treat highly selected patients with localized prostate cancer and a histologically proven local recurrence with standard radical prostatectomy. Salvage radical prostatectomy. Salvage radical prostatectomy should only be performed in experienced centers. Only offer salvage high intensity focus ultrasound, salvage cryosurgical ablation, and salvage brachytherapy to patients with proven local recurrence within a clinical trial setting or well-designed prospective cohort study. And systemic salvage treatment do not offer ADT to M0 patients with a PSA doubling time of 12 months.
Thank you very much.